It was a quiet Tuesday evening at the upscale restaurant where Emily worked, but her life was about to change forever. As she cleared a table, a sleek leather wallet slipped from a billionaire's coat pocket, spilling open to reveal a faded photo of a woman who looked exactly like her long-lost mother. Emily's heart stopped. She hadn't seen her mother since she was a child, and now, this stranger's wallet held a clue to a past she thought was gone forever. What she uncovered next would unravel a truth so profound, it left her trembling with tears. Emily, a 24-year-old waitress at the Silver Oak, a high-end restaurant in downtown Chicago, was used to serving wealthy patrons. Her days were long, her nights longer, but she carried herself with a quiet grace, her warm smile masking the struggles of her past. Raised by her grandmother after her mother, Sarah, disappeared when Emily was 7, she had grown up with questions that had no answers. Her grandmother rarely spoke of Sarah, only saying she'd left to find herself and never returned. The absence left a void in Emily's heart, one she'd learned to live with but never fully accepted. That evening, the restaurant was quieter than usual. A few regulars lingered over their wine, and a new face, a man in his late 50s, sat alone at a corner table. He was impeccably dressed, his tailored suit and silver watch screaming wealth. Emily had served him before. His name was Richard Langley, a billionaire real estate mogul known for his reserved demeanor and generous tips. He was polite but distant, always absorbed in his phone or a newspaper, rarely making small talk. As Emily cleared his table after he left, she noticed his wallet on the floor, half hidden under his chair. It must have slipped from his coat. She picked it up, intending to secure it in the restaurant's lost and found, but as she did, it fell open. A small, worn photo tucked inside caught her eye. The woman in the picture had soft brown eyes, a familiar smile, and a face Emily would never forget. Her mother, Sarah. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she held the photo closer, studying every detail. It was her mother, no question. The same wavy brown hair, the same gentle tilt of her head. The photo looked old, its edges frayed, as if it had been carried for years. Why did Richard Langley, a man she barely knew, have her mother's picture in his wallet? Her mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. She slipped the wallet into her apron pocket, her heart pounding. She couldn't just hand it over without answers. When her shift ended, she took the wallet home, promising herself she'd return it after she understood the connection. At her small apartment, she sat at her kitchen table, the wallet open before her. The photo was still there, staring back at her. She pulled out her phone and searched for Richard Langley online, hoping for clues. The internet was flooded with articles about him, his rise from a modest background to a real estate empire, his philanthropy, his private life. He was widowed, with no children, and kept a low profile despite his wealth. Nothing mentioned a woman named Sarah or anything that could link him to Emily's mother. Frustrated, Emily tucked the photo back into the wallet and decided to confront him when he returned to the restaurant, which he often did on Tuesdays. The next week, Richard appeared at his usual table. Emily's stomach churned as she approached him, the wallet hidden in her apron. She waited until the restaurant quieted before speaking. "Mr. Langley," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, "I found your wallet last week. I didn't mean to pry, but I saw a photo inside. The woman, she looks like someone I know." Richard's face paled slightly, but he recovered quickly, offering a polite smile. "Thank you for returning it," he said, reaching for the wallet. "The photo is personal. I'd rather not discuss it." Emily hesitated, then pressed on. "The woman in the photo looks like my mother, Sarah. She's been gone since I was a child. I need to know why you have her picture." Richard's expression shifted, a flicker of something, guilt, perhaps, crossing his face. He leaned back, studying Emily. "Your mother's name is Sarah?" he asked quietly. "What's your last name?" "Carter," Emily replied. "Emily Carter." Richard's eyes widened, and for a moment, he seemed at a loss for words. "This is unexpected," he said finally. "Can we speak somewhere private?" They moved to a small office in the back of the restaurant after her shift. Richard sat across from her, the wallet between them. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself. The woman in the photo is Sarah Carter, he confirmed. I knew her many years ago. We were close. Emily's heart raced. Close how? Why do you carry her picture? Where is she now? Richard's gaze dropped to his hands. Sarah and I met in our 20s, working at a small real estate firm. She was brilliant, kind, and ambitious. We fell in love, but life pulled us apart. I was building my career, and she had her own dreams. We lost touch after she left the city. I didn't know she had a daughter. Emily's throat tightened. She left when I was 7. My grandmother raised me. She never told me much about my mom, only that she left to find herself. I don't even know if she's alive. Richard's face softened with sympathy. I'm so sorry, Emily. I didn't know about you. The photo, it's a reminder of a time when I felt truly happy. Sarah was special to me. I've carried it all these years because I never stopped wondering what happened to her. Emily felt a mix of anger and desperation. If she was so special, why didn't you find her? Why didn't you try? Richard sighed. I did try for a while, but Sarah was good at disappearing. She didn't want to be found, or so it seemed. Eventually, I had to move on. I got married, built my business, but I never forgot her. Emily's mind spun. The man before her had loved her mother, yet he knew nothing of her life after they parted. She needed more answers, but Richard had none to give. Do you know anything that could help me find her? She asked. Richard hesitated, then pulled a small notebook from his coat. I don't know where she is now, but I have an old address from when we were together. It's a long shot, but it's all I have. He scribbled it down and handed it to her. I hope you find what you're looking for, Emily. The address was for a small town in upstate New York, a place Emily had never heard of. She spent the next few days debating what to do. Part of her wanted to let it go, to keep living her life as she always had. But the photo, now tucked into her own wallet, burned a hole in her heart. She had to know the truth. With her savings, Emily booked a bus ticket to the town. The address led to a modest house on a quiet street. An older woman answered the door, her face kind but wary. Emily explained who she was, showing her the photo. The woman's eyes softened. You're Sarah's daughter, she said, as if she'd been expecting her. I'm Margaret, Sarah's aunt. Margaret invited her inside, where Emily learned pieces of her mother's story. Sarah had come to the town after leaving Chicago, struggling with her mental health. She'd stayed with Margaret for a few years, trying to rebuild her life, but eventually left again, saying she wasn't ready to be a mother. Margaret had lost contact with her about a decade ago, but had an old letter with a return address in Seattle. Emily felt a mix of hope and heartbreak. Her mother had been here, alive, but still running. Margaret gave her the letter, along with a warning. Sarah was always searching for something she couldn't name, she said. Be prepared for what you might find. Back in Chicago, Emily tracked the Seattle address to a community center. She called and spoke to a social worker named Lisa, who remembered Sarah. She volunteered here for a while, Lisa said. She was kind but kept to herself. She left about 5 years ago. I don't know where she went, but I can give you the name of a friend she mentioned. The friend, a woman named Clara, lived in Portland. Emily reached out, her hope fading with each dead end. Clara confirmed Sarah had stayed with her briefly, but had moved on, saying she needed to make things right. Clara had no current address, but mentioned Sarah had talked about returning to Chicago one day. Emily felt like she was chasing a ghost. Months passed, and she threw herself into work, the photo still in her wallet. She saw Richard at the restaurant occasionally, and he'd ask about her search, offering quiet support. One day, he handed her a card for a private investigator he'd hired in the past. If you want to keep looking, he's the best, Richard said. I'll cover the cost. Reluctantly, Emily accepted. The investigator, Tom, was thorough. He traced Sarah's movements through old records, finding traces of her in various cities. Finally, he called with news. Sarah was living in a small apartment in Chicago, working as a librarian. She'd been in the city for 2 years, just miles from where Emily lived. Emily's heart pounded as she stood outside the library where Sarah worked. She didn't know what she'd say or how she'd feel. When she walked in, She saw her, a woman with graying hair, her mother's familiar eyes scanning a book. Sarah looked up and for a moment, time stopped. "Emily," she whispered, her voice trembling. They sat in a quiet corner of the library, and Sarah explained everything. She'd left because she'd been overwhelmed, battling depression, and feeling unfit to raise Emily. She'd wanted to protect her daughter by leaving her with her grandmother. Over the years, she'd tried to rebuild her life, always intending to return but fearing rejection. "I thought you'd hate me," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "I carried so much guilt." Emily cried too, a mix of anger, relief, and love washing over her. "I just wanted to know you," she said. "I needed to know why." They talked for hours, piecing together the years they'd lost. Sarah showed Emily a locket she wore, containing a photo of Emily as a child. "I never stopped loving you," Sarah said. "I just didn't know how to come back." Emily didn't forgive her mother right away. There was too much pain for that. But she felt the weight of the unknown lift. She'd found her mother, not in the way she'd hoped, but in a way that felt real. When she saw Richard at the restaurant the next week, she thanked him. "Your wallet started this," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to repay you." Richard smiled, a sadness in his eyes. "Seeing you find her is enough," he said. "I loved her once, too." Emily and Sarah began rebuilding their relationship slowly, meeting for coffee, sharing stories. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The photo, now back in Richard's wallet, had led Emily to a truth that broke her heart and began to mend it, all at once.